All right. So you want to look at some quotes that you've got?
I mean, I've got a bunch. Some of them are just small quotes. Some are bigger. But the one quote that's repeated often in the show was Vi telling Powder, "You're stronger than you think." I wrote it down as a significant quote in episode, I believe it's 1. That's, wow, God, I got so many notes. Yeah, that's just episode 1. And then she follows up with, "One day the city's going to respect us." So,
Right,
they're coming up in the world. That's their goal. But what's weird is I wrote that down as I thought it was interesting in just from the context of episode 1. But as the show progresses, that line becomes a pretty problematic line for Jinx because it seems to be in conflict with how she was actually treated by Vi. In her perspective, Vi abandoned her. So this idea, "Oh, you're stronger than you think," seems to be this, like, I want to say paternal / maternal comment, like, "Hey, you'll get there. You're better than you think." That's one of those like pep up lines.
You can do it too, but I'm not.
Totally.
Yeah,
it's a show of faith in somebody. It's, I believe in your potential. It's the kind of thing that would be spoken to you by somebody who's older that you look up to, if you cared. And this becomes a kind of almost poisonous memory or a poisonous quote for her later. Just like Powder
James
was young
says
Powder.
the most poignant quote in the whole show for me was when Vander told Vi to take care of Powder. There's some pretty severe subtext there. Take care of means to care for or to destroy.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, take care of her.
You better take care of her.
Which inadvertently is what she does. She destroys Powder, and then Jinx is what hemorrhages instead.
Or that maybe need to take Jinx out.
But well, I think that it works on that double level, but I don't think it was intended to mean take care of Powder. Like, I don't think, not from Vander anyway.
Well, no, but just I think James is just saying that, like,
in retrospect, like,
right.
looking back on that, what are you going to have to do to Powder becoming Jinx?
Totally. Yeah. Well, but that's also what a parent would say to the older sibling. Hey, watch out for your sister. Keep an eye on your sister or your brother or whatever. The other line that I wrote from Vander was, and I like this, when he's telling her about responsibility, which I think is a crucial discussion between Vander and Vi, because Vi adopts this worldview from Vander. He's like, the message on leadership, whatever happens, it's on you. I just thought that was a very succinct way to remind her what it means to be the leader.
Mm-hmm. More quotes?
Man, I've got a whole bunch.
Sure.
Do you have some ready?
Well, I just have one other one that I wrote down, which was the "In the pursuit of great, we failed to do good."
Oh yeah, yeah.
That one was,
great line.
That just like was the
like
summary of both of those two characters and their arcs and their roles in the story, and the tragedy of them. And yeah,
I think that's on the lighter side of Sable's earlier theme of the idea of monsters. Mm-hmm. By aiming high and ending up low, you're becoming that monster. I think that plays into that concept or that theme right there.
Yeah, that was a great line.
Mm-hmm. In the comment, they're appreciating the actor that did Powder for that scene. Like,
yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sable says, can we mention that Powder's actress was 11 years old when she was screaming and crying after her sister leaving her behind? I've seen interviews where cast and crew talk about how she had everyone crying with that performance.
Really?
A lifetime, that, James says.
Yeah. And one of the things that I watched, the director, he was talking about how he was really nervous having this like child actor. He was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to direct this. And if he didn't need to, she just did it. And it was just
wow.
So
see, I have a theory that great scripts elevate actors, and that sounds like that happened there. That the scenes and the scenarios were so spot on that the actor, or in this case the actress, got there immediately. Like they understood it at that level.
Also just a young talent who did a fantastic job.
Well, but don't you think? And you guys would probably even know better than me. Like I said, for me, it's a theory. A great script, doesn't it bring it out of you a little bit sometimes? Like you're able to find that human line there and elevate you
when it's genuine. Yeah, of course. Like that's the real, like that's when it becomes hard for actors that are, especially if they're less experienced, where it's like if there's not much genuine story there, you have to make it up in your own head. Yeah.
This was the line I was thinking about going back to the very early conversation when we're talking about the theming about who are you going to give up, or what would you give up, or who for what you want, because this is when Vander is talking to Vi, and this was kind of that conversation was what I was talking about, that they're going to follow you, you have to be sure. They used their first take too. They tried to do a second take and just couldn't reach the same heights. Maya Sinclair Jennings said she imagined losing her own brother, who was her best friend.
Yeah, there's this other line here. Jace is actually, this is early on. This is episode 2. Jace is considering suicide. I think he's going to jump off that cliff edge or that canal opening. And Viktor interrupts him. Hey, what are you doing? And
am I interrupting something? I think is what he says.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's this great line where he's like, when your goal is to change the world, don't ask for permission. I just thought that was a pretty cool line too. And the show is loaded with great lines. Yes. When you're going to change the world, don't ask for permission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this goes back to my theory about Vi as the sacred fire.
And that line comes back. Yes, I recognize that too, James. That line comes back. Am I interrupting you? They reverse that line. Later.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Episode 8 or something, right? When Viktor starts to go off a little bit to the deep end, for reasons that we sympathize with, but definitely gets more extreme as the story goes. So early on, there's definitely more talk about revolution. And then they're talking about the lanes are going to fight. I wrote that down because that's foreshadowing for this coming revolution. And it's interesting. Even now, I'm rethinking this. The first couple episodes were strong about revolution, and then it gets kind of muted, and we really get into the character arcs of a lot of these characters. That's why I think season 2 is going to focus on this battle between Piltover and Zahn, and I think it's going to be the revolution. I think it's going to be a very violent season, probably excellent too.
I like this, what Sable is saying. That I thought of this one too. I loved this line too. Are you sure this is safe? Of course not. That's between
it's not Victor. The response you expect. Yeah.
Well, but he was with it. Like to me, it was. Jay shouldn't be expecting it to be safe. Earlier on, he wouldn't have even thought about that. He's just conducting his experiments and doing stuff. And so it's odd that he says, "Is this safe?" And so Viktor says, "Of course not." Like, what are we have to doing things that are safe, because that's Heimldinger's thing.
Right. Right.
So he says, "Of course not," because it's a weird thing for Jace to ask because he's changing.
Right.
Scott says, read great scripts. Yes, good writing means the underlying motivation. And good to see you, Scott. Welcome. It means the underlying motivation is very understandable, relatable. So the actor naturally knows the emotion and internal motivation, and the circumstances of the scene provoke the emotion from the actor.
Yes.
See, I agree. I feel like if the underlying structure is there in the script, and by underlying structure, I mean character, that an actor, the chance that clicks is just increased. And if that actor clicks with that and the structure is there, I mean, the reality of that character is there, you can get a performance like that rather, quicker than normal anyway.
Right. It takes like an extreme amount of experience. I think like your A-list actors that you can give them very little and they're able to still get there. And that's because they know how to they're doing that work themselves. Like they're creating that. They're saying, okay, so now, I mean, to a certain extent, any actor will do that, being like, all right, let me think about the specifics of what the motivation is for my character right now in this moment. But then the more that you have to work with, like the easier it is to get there. And yeah.
There's a great scene in Birdman where Ed Norton's character comes on and he just completely interprets the script instantly, almost like Mozart level. And then they do this and it's a much more charged scene and it works perfectly. That gave me some appreciation for what an actor can do with a script. I thought that was a great scene.
Silco's best line, is there anything so undoing as a daughter?
Oh yeah. That was a good, I don't know if you think that was his best line. Undoing as a daughter.
Is there anything? Yeah, I remember that. Is there anything so undoing as a daughter?
I thought it was a great line. I never thought of it necessarily as his best, but I guess I haven't really weighed out all of his other lines.
That's what we'll do on the fourth watch. Is figure out what Silco's best line is.
It's going to be so much richer watching it again. I mean, of course, you guys have been through it several times, but after this discussion, I didn't have time to go through and watch all of the YouTube commentary and things like that. So it's only this is definitely one of those things that's going to become richer as we watch over and over again.
Oh yeah, this will be endlessly mined.
More when I
in terms of dialogue, I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm just reading my notes, and we covered this. Vander's last words are "Take care of Powder." Mm. And in my notes, I go immediately to another quote, which is after the drama that creates where Powder kills her friends with the bombs. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and it's so sad. I'm even thinking about it because I wrote it down. So she creates an explosion that kills her friends. Mm-hmm. And her response is, "It worked. My monkey bombs finally worked."
Right. Yes.
That's the way she responds to this terrible tragedy. And Vi
she doesn't know yet that they're dead.
She doesn't know. Yeah.
She doesn't know. When I watched it the second time, there's a part of me that's like, no, I don't want it to happen. No.
Yes, it's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And Vi's response is, "You did this?" And then she goes, "I was saving you."
Right.
So what a great, and that's not a lot of dialogue. That's a very small amount of dialogue. And then, at least as far as my notes go, the last major line of dialogue that I thought was noteworthy was Vander saying, "Take care of Powder." So yeah, Vander's
not
dying
doing a
word.
good job right now.
What's that?
She's not doing a good job.
But exactly. But Vi always does a good job. She's extremely competent and always makes good. So the one time she totally fails is right after given this directive from Vander to take care of Powder. She has her moral failing, and it just changes everything. Clearly, I just think that's great writing, both from a storytelling standpoint and then from a screenwriting standpoint.